recognizing that that wisdom that you're seeking outside right now, it already lives inside of you. You're not broken. You're not missing pieces. You're disconnected from that truth.
You're watching the Wow podcast. I'm Jennifer Robin. This conversation is for informational purposes only and is not medical advice. Full disclosure is in the description. Today on the show, we have Sarah Woodard, founder of Wisdom Grove. Her work is inspired by nature and rooted in Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer. I am so excited to be here.
So tell me a little bit more about what you do and how you've mapped the religions to the Tree of Life.
So this is really cool. I started off wanting to just help seekers who are exploring spiritual growth beyond the traditional frameworks of organized religion and all of those boxes that we have been sorted into. And the more I dug into the Kabbalah and specifically the Tree of Life, which is a piece of the much larger thing of the Kabbalah, the more I figured out that it's the unifier. And I've been able to successfully map more than 40 spiritual and religious traditions to the tree. It shows up in all of them in different ways. And it was pretty incredible to see all of this because, I mean, it's everything from like the religions we all know, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, to Aboriginal Dreamtime, to Taoism, to indigenous cultures and their beliefs. It was like, in the movie Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, and you put on the crystal skull and it was like, it was like that moment for me doing that. And so that became kind of my guide for this. And so like nature is our first teacher and will always be our first teacher. Nature is how the divine manifests in reality. And so are we. And so is everything on this planet and the planet itself. And then the Tree of Life with this new understanding became the map and the guide for the growth process.
That's awesome. I have not studied that many religions, but I have. I'm a researcher and I read a lot, and I've been saying, even before I got into this, like even as a teenager, I remember saying, I think all these religions are basically talking about the same thing, and and religion,
ding, ding, ding,
exactly. But the people you're supposed to respect, your parents, your religious leaders, your teachers, whatever. They'd be like, no, we're Christian. Mm-hmm. This is what we are. This is what we believe. Everything else is, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Right. Exactly. And that was always me too. That was always me. Yeah.
I'm like, what if I grew up in Africa? You're telling me that I'd still be learning this,
Right.
Anyway. So what got you started down this path anyway of being interested in exploring all the religions and getting into this study?
Yeah. So a couple of things. It started literally of this sense of like when I was born, really, I think I came out of the womb going, you all missed a memo. You're doing this wrong. Like what? Huh? What? Why? And I grew up, and I believe that we as souls, when we reincarnate, we choose our parents. And so I happened to choose a household where both of my parents were raised Jewish, had a Jewish wedding during which they promised to have a Jewish family and raise their children Jewish and all of that stuff. But then sometime between then and when I was born, my mom converted to Christianity and it became a battle for souls. It was like, no, they're going to go to Hebrew school. No, they're going to come to church with me. Oh. And I sat there this whole time going, why are we fighting about this?
Yeah.
You're using different language to talk about the same thing. Why are we fighting about this? And however, also, there was something in me that felt more drawn to the Judaism side of it, but still not like also very felt connected to nature. Like my very first sanctuary, if you will, was a bush that grew in our front yard in a circle. And I used to crawl inside there. And I couldn't have told you at the time, but what I was doing was literally communing with Earth. I just didn't know it at the time.
I can so relate to that. I literally can remember, and now I'm like, oh, I can just imagine the bugs. Like those, like remember those giant people used to have these giant like sculpted shrubs and things in front of their houses.
Yeah.
We had a house at one time that had, and I would like crawl on. It was like you said, a little sanctuary under there.
Yeah. Yeah. So this wasn't like sculpted. It actually just grew in a circle on its own, but still
very
same thing.
cool.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my introduction. And what I realized, so I want to say like fourth grade, we switched synagogues because of travel times. And up until then, I really loved the synagogue. I loved going to Hebrew school. I loved the kids there. And I was the only Jewish kid in my public school. So I felt very accepted at the Hebrew school we were going to until fourth grade. And it really felt good to me. And I liked it. When we switched because of commute times and whatever, it was like I was confronted with the same bullying that I received in public school as the only Jewish kid in my class, except this was from other Jewish kids. And it was just, and that started like a big disconnect for me. It was like, oh, Judaism isn't what I thought it was. These aren't actually my people. And I spent years, I mean, decades of my life after that going, where is my spiritual home? And I explored everything from Reiki and shamanic work and some of like the really out there new age stuff. And underneath all of it, I'm like, you're all saying the same thing and you're not saying it right. This isn't the answer. And then, I had several dark nights of the soul. Most recently was when I was still living in New Hampshire. Actually, I've moved back and forth across the country about 15 times until I figured out where I finally wanted to live. But most recently was as part of this moving, I was getting really kind of like dejected and being like, why don't I have this answer? And I needed to come up with a new approach of how I was working with the divine on figuring this out. And that forced me back into Kabbalah, back to the Tree of Life. And that's when I went, oh, I get it now. And then once I got it, I was like, okay, well, now I can use this to A, figure out where I'm going, and B, actually bring that into reality, actually actualize it. I don't use manifesting. And so that's what I did. And so here I am in Illinois, western suburbs of Chicago, and this is where my soul home is. I have never felt more comfortable anywhere in my life. So I can prove that it works with a very big thing. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think it's exciting that you got to at least travel and visit so much of the country.
Definitely. Yeah, like no regrets. It was definitely cool. I just got tired of, like literally every move I did by myself. So it was me with driving the U-Haul with my car on the back and 3 cats in the cab. And like, they're sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of packing my stuff every year to year and a half. Like I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, this is not how I want to live. Like for some people, they love that lifestyle. That's cool. For me, I was like, I really just want to be rooted.
Yeah.
You know, so
let's talk a little bit about, you say that we can see the divine most in nature. I mean, I'm a nature bug as well. I love taking my weekly short hikes in the forest, love the beach. Talk to us about seeing the divine in nature.
Yeah, so the divine isn't like out there somewhere. Like a lot of like the religious boxes, you're kind of taught that like God is this being in the sky that is unknowable and untouchable and sees everything. And that is one aspect, don't get me wrong. But that aspect shows up in reality, in nature and in us. And so it's not really just the divine is this unknowable being waiting for us to be worthy. We're already worthy and the divine is already here. And so things like watching the trees lose their leaves in the fall, like we're doing right now, that's a lesson in letting go. Spring, when those first like crocuses or whatever come up through even sometimes there's still snow on the ground. That's resilience and renewal. The ants that, when you're out, like you've got, you're out on your hike and you've got like your sandwich or whatever, right? And there's ants. Guess what? The divine is right there too. Maybe it's not the ideal way we would like to interact, but still the divine. The stars at night, the way the light filters through the forest canopy. Really what it comes down to is being present. Most people, we move through the day on autopilot.
Yeah.
And you need to slow down and be present and pay attention and with curiosity, not expectation, because nature is always communicating all of these lessons and all of this wisdom. We have to slow down and be present to see it. And so I call this contemplative seeing. And it's really about being with nature, a part of nature, which is how we were meant to live, versus in nature, I'm going into the forest to get a better connection. How about I am in harmony with the forest because that is where I connect. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know if this is related at all, but do you know about people that do, I think it's called forest bathing. There's people that like hug the trees.
Sure.
I don't hug the trees, but I do. When I'm not wearing shoes that are grounding, as I'm hiking, I will like put my palm up and touch the trees as I go by, just because I figure I want to be connected somehow, even if I can't through my feet.
Yeah. So forest bathing is a great moment in time to be with nature. What I'm saying is you don't have to do that. You can literally be with nature all the time. Touching a tree is great. You don't have to go to the forest even to be with nature. If you've got houseplants, touch those. If you don't, get some. I don't care if you're the person that thinks you kill everything. There is something out there you can have in your house that will grow and be green and bring nature to your life. Find a plant store that will help you find something for your particular color of thumb. And
yeah, I would recommend to anybody in that boat, because I have trouble with plants. Pothos are really, really easy to keep alive, especially if you put them in water, because then you just have to make sure the jar has water.
The jar has water.
Like you could do it like once a week and be okay.
I have the best luck with spider plants, and they also clean your air. So win-win there.
Yeah.
And the great thing about spider plants is they can live in water, they can live in dirt, they can live in the air. You can literally just put them somewhere that there's a little sun, and they're like, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are all good for beginners.
Exactly.
So I have a question for you. Because some of what you're saying is reminding me of a guest I had maybe a couple months ago. Curious how this sits with you. His view was that some of us that were brought up in formal religions, mostly Christian religions, were taught that we come into this world born a sinner. And he was saying, no, I've studied, he studied a lot of religions as well and a lot of ancient history. And he said, we came in as a divine being. Okay. Because I was hearing the similarity. I just wanted to check in with you and see how that sat with you. That's what I'm leaning towards as well.
So first of all, Judaism does not even buy into this whole born sinners thing.
Right.
So to me, that was all very much a turnoff. Like right from the start. Also, completely agree with your guest. We were definitely not born sinners. We were all born divine. In the Kabbalah, there is a school of wisdom within Kabbalah that says that even God sins. And I'm going to tell you the story if you want.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So when God created the universe, he also, of course, created the moon and the sun. And when he first, or I'm saying he because that's how most people refer to God. I personally do not like gendered references to God.
Ditto.
It's the way the story is.
It's fine.
It's the way the story is told. But just to put an asterisk, I'm using he because it's the way the story is told, not the way I choose to refer to the divine. Little asterisk there. So when God created the universe, created the moon and the sun as part of that. And initially, the moon and the sun shone of equal brightness. And God looked at this and went, there's no day and night. My creation, my beings need time to rest. It needs to get dark. So he said, hey, moon, will you dim yourself? And moon said, no. And so God said, well, I'm going to force you to, and dimmed the moon and created the moon phases that we all know of today. And as such, we are now expected, or it is desired for us as humans to honor the moon and the moon sacrifice as a way of atoning for the sin that God did of dimming the moon. So, like, the whole perspective that God is perfect and we're sinners, completely wrong. To me, the difference is, are you looking through the lens of the patriarchy, who is using the liturgy and the doctrine to try to suppress anyone who disagrees with them? Or are you looking through the eyes of someone who's open-minded and compassionate and leading with their heart and seeking wisdom rather than seeking control?
Yeah. Good
to
distinction.
Me, that's the difference.
Yeah. Very good.
And it's also, to go back to the moon thing, it's also why in biblical times, the Jewish, or back then they were the Hebrews, but the Jewish people had a whole ceremony they called it Rosh Chodesh, which means first of the month. So the Jewish calendar is lunar. So The first of the month is the new moon.
Yeah, now that's interesting in itself, right?
Yes. Oh, it's super cool. But every new moon, so literally once a month, they have a holiday of sorts to celebrate not just the moon cycles, but also women, because of women's cycles and connection to the moon through our own bodies.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to bring that back as part of my business. I do new moon gatherings every month now because I love this and I want to bring this back. So it's a very different thing when you look at it through the eyes of wanting wisdom rather than wanting control.
Yeah.
You know,
how do different trees and plants map to spiritual growth stages?
So I love this question because it's actually not about a specific tree or a specific plant. Mm-hmm. It's more about the tree of life is the framework, the way that I teach it. As we said at the beginning, what I do is really different from every other Kabbalistic person out there. You're not going to find anyone else mapping it to 40 other traditions. You're not going to find anybody else using it as a map the way that I do it. I'm okay with that. This is what I was born to do, so that's fine. So because that tree as a framework is the map, is the tool, and each one of those is a different aspect of spiritual growth, the different plants and trees may speak to somebody at a different point depending on their personal wiring, depending on where they're at on their journey. And so getting that insight into like, oh, I'm really stuck in the heart, which is Tiferet. It's the middle circle on the tree. And by the way, for anyone who might be familiar with the tree of life, there's often two different models you'll see, two different depictions. One has 10 circles or sephirot, one has 11. I use the one with 11. And what's being left out in the one with 10 is called dot. And I believe that's essential because that's where your soul purpose lives. That's where knowledge and understanding merge into wisdom. Why would you not want that? So, but let's pretend that, you've done a little bit of work assessing where you're at on the tree and you're going, wow, gee, I'm really stuck in the middle Tiferet, which is the heart. And I need to open up my heart more because I'm struggling with being too rigid and I have too severe of boundaries. And so I need to bring it a little more compassion and tolerance. And what do I need to do that? And there are any number of ways to do that, right? You could work with crystals, you could work with EFT, you could work with meditation, with a therapist, with 1,000 things. You could also work with plants. There are going to be specific plants that volunteer for those types of jobs when they come down as souls into our realm. That doesn't mean it's how it's meant to work with your wiring. So don't just go, okay, well, this plant is supposed to help. This herb helps with love and compassion. I'm going to use it. Okay, it might work. Maybe there's something better for your personal wiring. So I think the better way to do it is to say, which plant is going to work with me on this? And wait and get quiet and see where you're led. It might not be what the internet gods tell you.
Ever listen to a podcast with great content, but wish the audio quality was better? Even with expensive equipment, audio recordings pick up everything. Appliance hums, barking dogs, notification beeps. And when listeners are wearing headphones, they hear all of it. Excessive ums and repetitive words can be really irritating too. Would you rather hear audio like this?
No matter how much somebody cares and how well-meaning they are.
Or polished like this?
No matter how much somebody cares and how well-meaning they are.
Every podcast deserves the spa treatment. With balanced audio levels and distractions removed, you can hear the difference immediately. Know a podcaster who'd appreciate a fresh perspective? I offer free podcast consultations where I share specific ideas to improve their show. Send them to podcastspa.com. That's podcastspa.com. Your referrals help support this show. I appreciate you. And then how would someone use a plant?
So again, it's going to vary based on the person and their journey and their preferences. Some examples that might work, again, depending on the person. It could be, if it's like an edible plant, maybe it's something you need to incorporate into your food, or if it's an herb, you incorporate into your food. If it's not that, maybe it's one you just need in your space, like
just
people
to have nearby.
Like people, like people use a money tree, right, in like feng shui or whatever, right? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's you just need picture of it on your desktop, on your computer to remind you, because that's where you spend all your life is on your computer. Like, it could be, maybe you have a garden and it's something you need to plant in there. It could be 1,001 different ways. There is no right way. There's also no wrong way.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as you're not hurting anyone, that's the only wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. How can we align ourselves with the natural cycles instead of fighting them?
So we all know that like nature has, seasons, especially those of us that live in the north part of the country. We're very aware of the seasons. And the day also has a cycle, right? There's morning and night and the whole cycle of the day. And so the key to aligning your life to nature is to, first of all, recognize what season is your soul in. Just because the calendar says it's fall doesn't mean that you're in the autumn of your life. So like autumn would be, and it has nothing to do with age or anything like that. Autumn is just about letting go. You're in a period of your life where you need to let go of something, maybe many somethings. But just because the calendar says it's autumn and look, the leaves are falling, it's time to let go. Maybe that's not your soul season. So the first part is figuring out where your soul is at. Maybe you're actually in like a winter, which is like a rest phase, or you're in a harvest phase, or it could be anywhere, right? So you have to figure that. And then if you are, let's say you're in a winter, which means you need to rest, it's time for you to go dormant and do some deep thinking, some deep meditating, some deep inner work in some fashion. Honor that. Don't push yourself to grow and make all these big life changes. Just honor that. Be still. And for me, that's actually the most frustrating period of life. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And yet I still do it, even though it's frustrating, because I know that when I come out of that, when I take the time to honor that and to do that deep rest, when I come out of that, what comes out is going to be much more effective, much more aligned than if I was like, no, I'm just going to push through. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And then also it's the day, right? Like, so I am a morning person. I just am. Like, to me, and that's okay, right? You don't have to be a morning person. And that's okay. Most of the people that I know are literally going to bed when I am getting up, right? And they're calling me at like 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. What do you want? Like, but that's okay. Both are acceptable. We live in this society that's like 9 to 5. That's when you have to be productive. Why? Right? It's honor your cycle, honor your whatever your hours are. They're not wrong. They're just different.
Yeah.
That's okay, right? My biggest frustration with being a morning person is that society doesn't operate that way. And I'm like, hey, it's 6 o'clock. I want to go to the grocery store. Why aren't they open yet? Like,
My husband's like that. He's always pacing around like, I need to get whatever. And that's not open. I just want to get it done.
And I get it. Because it does, obviously it costs money for them to staff the store.
Yeah.
And they have to do it when people are going to be there. I get it. But just as best you can, honor that. For me, since I know I can't run errands at the hour of the morning I would like to because no one else in the world is awake, then what I do instead is find other things that I can channel that energy into, right? And so it's honoring the day cycles and the seasonal cycles that are yours. It has nothing to do about what society is doing or what the calendar is doing. It's about yours.
Nice. And what are your tips for turning some sort of natural setting into a sacred sanctuary?
I love this because it's actually so much simpler than people think. You don't need any elaborate rituals or tools. Like some people are going to tell you, well, you have to bless it and clear it and all that. You can. I'm not saying you don't. If it speaks to you, do it. You don't have to. What makes it a sacred space is your presence and your intention. And so this is what I do. I literally just walk somewhere. But maybe it's just a forest, or maybe there's a tree in your backyard. It doesn't matter. Just find a space that you're like, I just want to go for a walk here. And as you're walking, just pay attention. Find a space that calls to you. It might be a tree. It might be just a rock near the water. It might just be an open field that you just love. I mean, it could be Literally anything. It might be one flower sticking up out of the ground. It doesn't matter. And once you found that, just keep going back there. You don't have to do anything other than leave your phone in your pocket. Just go there. Just be present. Bring your questions, your grief, your joy, whatever it is that you're holding. And because you're there doing that, showing up honestly and authentically, that becomes a sacred space automatically. I go to the Arboretum here and it's 1,700 acres. I could explore it for the rest of my life and not see everything, but especially with all the seasonal changes and everything else. But I was there in the summer and I found this one tree and I was like, oh yeah, you're my tree. And I just knew, and I was like, all right, I'm going to come back and see you. And then I was there a couple weeks ago and I was in one of those emotional spaces where I was like, I need something. And I went there not intending to see this tree. Actually, I went there intending to, because nature photography has become a huge hobby for me since I moved out here. And so I went there just intending to take some pictures of the water and the tree color reflecting and all of this. And then as I'm walking, I'm like, oh my God, I know where I am. And the next thing I knew, I'm at my tree. And it was like, it called to me, even though I wasn't planning it. And I went there and just kind of let it all out, and walked away going, I know what I'm feeling now. This is grief. These are the things that I am grieving. I know what to do with this now. I'm not just sitting here going, oh my God, everything. And it's okay to feel that way, but it helped me to pick it apart and go, okay, what's really going on? Why do I just feel like everything is ick? Well, okay, I'm grieving this and this and this and this. And it all kind of happened all together. And no wonder I feel like this is hard right now. Okay, well, we can work with that. Right now I can do the work I need to do to process the grief, to heal, to move forward.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like you are incredibly tuned in to connecting with the divine. But for those of us who maybe aren't, how do we recognize when we have a direct soul interaction or a pull towards the divine? I know some people are like, just you'll know. But I know
right?
There are people that are saying how, but how?
Right. And that is such a valid question, because literally if nobody has ever identified for you, this is the feeling, this is the how, then of course you're still asking that. That's like saying, oh, well, you'll know how to ride a bike when you get on it. Really? How? Right? No. And as someone who has literally forgotten how to ride a bike twice in her life, I promise you, I can tell you how. Literally, your soul is speaking to you through longing and resonance. That it's that feeling of yes. And it can also be a feeling of extreme jealousy, like, oh my God, that person has whatever. It can be a material thing. That is okay. We are allowed to want material things. We live in a material world. Or it might not be. Those feelings, that's your soul pulling you in a direction. When your soul is like, oh, yes, I love this. Like, that's how I felt when I saw that tree. It was like, oh, yes, this is my tree, right? At the same time, I see people who have certain styles of homes or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I want that. And instead of trying to just be like, well, jealousy is bad and shove that down, no, recognize that's your soul saying that something about your soul recognizes that feels more true than what you have now. Does it mean you can change immediately? No, you're going to have to put in some work. Maybe it could be, any type of work to get there. You're still allowed to want it. Those strong, connection feelings, it's that resonance, if you will.
Yeah.
That longing. That's your soul. The tricky part, of course, is separating that from your ego's agenda, right? And it's because the ego wants things that are certain, that you can control. Your soul can be okay with messy. However, not always. Some people come in with traumatized souls, and then not always. The way that I distinguish it is I ask myself, is this something I think I should do? Or that this would make me appear a certain way? Is this something that I feel like I would be judged positively for? And that's the only reason I'm doing it? Those questions, that's your ego.
Yeah.
And you got to just say, hey, I hear ya. Can you step aside though? Because I want to get soul's input on this. And ask your ego to just take a back seat. You don't have to shut it up permanently. You're never gonna. You don't have to ignore it totally. Just ask it to just step aside or take a back seat so you can listen to your other voice, your soul voice, your heart voice, and let it come through. because it's softer. It's a whisper rather than a yell. Your ego voice is like, I am here and you will listen. Your soul voice is like, hi, I'd like to speak now. Right? And so you got to ask the ego to step aside so it can come through. And the reason I love nature for this is because when you leave your phone in your pocket, it strips away the noise. When you're sitting with a tree or a plant or by a river or whatever it is that speaks to you, your ego automatically quiets down because it recognizes it's not needed in that moment. And that's when your soul can actually just very easily say, hello, here's what I've been trying to tell you.
I know a lot of people have trouble when they try to meditate and quiet the mind. I'm one of those people that like, it just won't shut up. It just won't. I've been practicing forever, but I can go for a 2-hour hike. And granted, it still takes me the first hour of usually after an hour passes, finally, I'm in that quiet. And like you said, I'm trying to pay attention to what's around me. I'm more like in the zone sometimes. But
yeah, so I love that you asked this because it gives me an opportunity to correct a misperception about meditation.
Okay, great.
Right? The way that the gurus or whomever would have you believe is that it is about quieting your mind. Literally, we are not wired that way as human beings. We are wired still the same way we were when we lived in caves, and having an active mind literally kept us alive. Okay? So asking your brain to be empty and silent is not even rational. Literally anything can become meditation. Meditation is about presence and awareness and intention. Doing your dishes can become meditative if you're focusing just on doing the dishes. And how does the water feel? How does the soap feel? How does the sponge feel? Putting the dishes away, if you have a dishwasher, can be meditation. Walking, running, tuning, doing those things. And even if you're not, somewhere beautiful that you want to pay attention to the nature, tuning into how do your lungs sound and feel? How does your breath sound coming out of your mouth and your nose? What's your heart doing? That turns a quote unquote ordinary activity into a meditation. You don't have to sit in a corner on a cushion with your legs crossed and your hands in a certain position going, oh, we're not wired to do that. We're just not.
Yeah.
And people beat up on themselves and feel really like, I'm failing at spirituality. You're not failing. You need a practice that works for you. You need something that works for the way you are wired, not somebody else's path.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I still attempt it sometimes, but I'm like, I need to figure out what my way is. And honestly, walking in nature,
that's
is
your
one
way.
of the ways. But also music and movement for me personally. I don't know if that's
Absolutely.
other people, but
it definitely is. A lot of indigenous cultures start the day by singing a greeting to the morning, to the gods, to whomever. I actually, without culturally appropriating it, adopted something similar to my life of singing to the day to greet the day. And I'm a terrible singer. I'm not going to do it in front of anyone. Believe me, you don't want that.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's not for anyone else, for me and for spirit. And nowhere does it say make an on tune joyful noise. It just says make a joyful noise. So
yeah,
that absolutely counts. Any of that counts. Does it help you get back to your center? Does it help you be more present instead of worrying about the future or caught up about guilt for something of the past? Does it bring you to your center? Does it bring you present? It counts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you're describing the dishes, that when you're thinking about temperature of the water, how the sponge, if you're by consciously trying to pay attention to those things, you're bringing yourself into the now moment.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you consider the difference between just seeking answers versus us remembering who we actually are?
Great question, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. The seeking answers assumes that you're missing something, that the truth is somewhere outside of you to be found. And if you can just find the right teacher or the right book or the right religious box, then you'll know. Remembering, though, is about recognizing that wisdom that you're seeking outside right now, it already lives inside of you. You're not broken. You're not missing pieces. You're disconnected from that truth. And for me and for what I teach to people, this is where the tree of life really just shines brightly, because I'm not teaching you something new. The tree isn't teaching you something new. It's just showing you patterns that your soul already recognizes. And so when you start to work with it, you get this sense of like, oh yeah, I just didn't know how to say that. I knew that though. Well, I didn't have the words for that. But yes, that's true too. And it becomes a process of just reacquainting yourself with the knowledge you were born with and that society has taught us to forget, because they teach us to get into a religious box and find the truth outside yourself.
Yeah.
That's not where it is.
Is there anything we didn't talk about today that I'm missing that you think is important that you want to share with our friends?
I don't know that it's missing, but just to kind of emphasize, you don't need a specific religious background to work with any of these concepts. The tree of life, although it lives within Jewish mysticism, the patterns it describes are universal. I view it as a process that can be used to show you where you are. It's not about what they would call pathworking, which is going like, start here, do this specific meditation to move to this next spot. I don't use it like that. I use it, like I said, it's a process, it's a map. And the tools that you use are as vast as there are a number of people on this planet. Meditation can be one. And I also want to emphasize that you don't need to be quote unquote spiritual enough or have it all figured out. The whole point is that you're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
You want that direct relationship with the divine on your terms. No two people are the same. So why would you walk in someone else's spiritual path?
Yeah, absolutely. What are the different ways that people could work with you?
So I offer several different options. Everything is a detailed PDF and asynchronous, because I believe that people should work through things in their own time, not my time. So the PDFs I offer are different types of readings. A spotlight scan, which is just really quick clarity, great for like when you're stuck and you need to see exactly what's blocking you. And then from there, there's also a full tree of life card reading where I actually pull cards that align with the different circles on the tree. And depending on what card lands where, gives you a pretty good map of where you are right now and where you're stuck and what you need to learn. And then I also do tree of life astrology reports, which basically is nothing like the solar astrology that everyone is familiar with on the, it's on the circle and it seems super complicated. The tree of life astrology looks at your birth information a little bit differently, and it maps that energy onto the circles of the tree. It gives you your soul purpose, which is dot. And then it also shows you like, here are the areas that you're born strong in, and here are the areas that, you're born needing to grow in. And you can figure out how to lean into those that you're strong in so that you can grow in those less strong places. The reason I created the Tree of Life astrology reports is because nobody else was doing them. Like, I desperately wanted one for myself because I knew that it was a thing that could be done. And nobody was doing them. And all the information I found about how to do them was super esoteric. So I figured out for myself, and I tested it on a bunch of people to figure out how to map appropriately. So that's super cool. And then for people who want even more information, I have a complete soul clarity blueprint, which is a very comprehensive roadmap. It includes that Tree of Life card reading, the Tree of Life astrology report, as well as a life path numerology report. So it covers basically all of the journalist questions, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your life. And then I also lead the monthly new moon gatherings.
You do those in person or online?
Those are virtual, so from anywhere. Everything is either asynchronous or virtual or both.
And where can people find you? What's your website?
groveofwisdom.com. You can actually take a free quiz to discover your spiritual seeking style and then get some resources that fit you the best. And then also, if you want to, stay connected, when you go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, because I send out weekly emails on spiritual growth and nature wisdom and working with the tree and some of my personal story and some fun stuff like that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I had fun chatting with you.
I had fun too. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. Just drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more.